I mean, so we've just seen the celebration of Lukaku there with the salute and the shush, right? It was a celebration that we've seen already just in the Coppa Italia a week ago. If you remember, this was last Tuesday after scoring a stoppage time penalty for Inter to tie their game at Juventus. Lukaku stared at the home fans behind the goal, put his finger to his lips in a shush gesture. So same thing we've just seen just now. That time, that was his response to the racist abuse that had been hurled at him by those fans. He did receive a second yellow card for his actions. He was sent off as a result of that. And despite massive criticism of the referee's decision, Serie A did choose to uphold Lukaku's one-match ban and also ruled a section of Juventus's stadium has to now be closed for one match, the next upcoming match. So this is just the latest in a long-running series of episodes concerning racial abuse towards players. It's such a big subject that we wanted to make sure that we gave it proper time to talk about and took some time now in the post-game to talk about. It's something that we just keep on seeing kind of again and again. And obviously we've got two black men in the studio who played in Italy and played in the Italian league. I guess just let's start there with your experiences of racial abuse, whether it's in football or in Italy specifically.
It's everywhere. It has been everywhere. It always have been, and it looks like it always will be. Now, is it the old stadium? It wasn't the old stadium. So you can't say that it was the old stadium, but it still happens. And I go back to common sense again. That's not common sense. You can't have common sense on what the guy has been hearing and he just shushes the crowd and he gets a yellow, really, because of that. I go back again and I hope we still have the referee there to talk to us about common sense and why common sense will not come into place there if you have a bit of empathy. And if you know what empathy means, look at it in a dictionary to know what it means. If you see a guy is getting abused and he just stands in front of someone in a stoic way, stoic manner, being cocky and arrogant, yes. And shushing the crowd, yes. And what? He did it tonight. Did he get a yellow? No, just because there wasn't a crowd being up, some people having a go at him. It's the same celebration. Yes, I know he looked like or whatever he looks like, and he not shush the crowd. That's the very least he could have done. I would have done worse than him. If I'm getting abused on the field, I go back to common sense again. And the Italian Federation keeps the yellow? And we're talking about common sense? Wow. Seriously.
But why did they keep the yellow?
I don't actually know. All I can say to you, you suffered of it, I suffered of it. And I have to say, it's not only in Italy, I suffered of it everywhere. Everywhere. And every time, it was your reaction that was getting punished. Well, this time, yes, a section of the Juve crowd or stadium will be sanctioned.
Yeah, for one game.
But I've had enough of looking at no to racism on shirt. I've had enough of that lousy picture at the beginning of the game when we all come and we focus on what's on the field. Can we focus on some other places and see what we can do properly about this? And the guy, I go back, took a yellow card for it. Please, let's stop.
So let's dig in on that a little bit, because you mentioned the role of the referee, what you see as a lack of empathy in that situation, right? We have a referee in Christina Unkel with us, also a person of colour, right? So I guess it's super interesting, your perspective on this one. Do you think it was poorly handled? And what do you think, what is the briefing to referees in those moments?
So two human rights issues we're dealing with right here. We're dealing with violence in the crowds and the spectators, right, which typically referees do not have any authority over. And we're also dealing with racial abuse. So I don't think, as you know, Terry just mentioned, there has to be a collective effort from all fronts. Yes, the refereeing side of it, and there is a global points of emphasis, not only in Serie A, which unfortunately there's a lot of racial abuse that occurs, but we've seen this as well. Anytime a player continues to incite the crowd, there is a point of emphasis that they should be carded for excessive celebration, because that raises violence into the stadium. That raises violence by the spectators onto the field. And that's where that kind of point of emphasis comes in. But to that point, we also have to balance this racial abuse and this racial insensitivity, right? We just saw this again in Major League Soccer this past weekend. When we take a look at all of this from a global perspective, I would have preferred the referee, David Massa, to go ahead and understand the context of it. This is something that could have been heard by everybody on the field. This wasn't only something that was exclusive for that period, it was continuous. And this is where working with Coppa Italia and the event organizers, that at times, I personally myself, when I was in Mexico, I've had to stop the game because they would say that word after every goalkeeper punt to make them stop the game. And we have to address the spectators on that side. Would I prefer David Massa not to have given that second yellow card for that red card in the context of this situation? The answer is yes. Is he supported by the points of emphasis, City, the international referees there saying they must be giving this cards? The answer is yes. And that's why City upheld this one ban. But we cannot be insensitive to the real human issue rights that are going on right now. And from an officiating standpoint, it is incredibly tiresome that we are having to personally be the ones dealing with these situations of the spectator racial abuse issues, of the spectators committing violent conducts to the players, the coaches. If you can't protect the players and coaches, you're definitely not going to be able to protect the referees. So a lot of common sense needs to be had here. And we can't be putting the referees in the middle of this situation. Trust me, we have a lot of issues on the field already. We don't need any additional issues coming on to our heads.
Okay, Christina. So I guess Christina's saying there's an onus on the player, right, not to react in that kind of situation. To ask a player not to react to degradation of that sort. What kind of statement does to racist abuse, right?
He did a celebration that he always does week in, week out. So when they're saying to react to the crowd,
it was deemed in that context to be provocative. I'm not defending the choice. I'm just saying what the decision was. I'm asking you, as a black player put in that situation, to have the onus put on you not to react, what statement does that send to you as a person of colour? It's
degrading, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? He celebrated a goal like he does every single week. He's been racially abused in the crowd. And the referee, I know what Christina's saying in terms of it's not on the referees, but he could have dealt with that situation. How can you give someone a yellow card? He obviously heard what was happening in the crowd and he decided to send him off as well. This is for me what I don't understand. And then for the Italian FA or whoever it is dealing with over there to upheld the yellow card as well, what sort of message is that sending out? It's almost like the condoning the situation, like, oh, because it's not happening to me, I'll pass it on to someone. And then to pass it on and to the crowd to be banned for 1 week, what sort of message is that sending out as well? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sick and tired, honest to God. Like, all through your life, you go through this nonsense and you're always having to talk about this. But until real change is implemented, we're going to be talking about the same things over and over and over, and it's tiring. Do you know what I mean? We come to play football and enjoy ourselves, but we're having to deal with this constantly. Thierry mentioned a thing that he had, 20 years ago? And what happens? You get slapped on the wrist, and what happens? Okay, we can do that. It's not going to change unless real change is made.
I go back. Why is he not on the referee? I don't understand. He made a mistake. But they validated his mistake after. Why? Because they have to back him up?
Exactly.
What is this? Seriously, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. You made a mistake, you made a mistake. I made a mistake, everyone makes a mistake. But you validate the mistake, and then now it's not the referee's fault. It is. And it is the Italian FA's fault. Why are you backing that? You made a mistake. Okay, on the night, this is what happened. When you review it, guys, we cannot upheld the second yellow. No, they do, because that's what the referee do. Follow the rule. Stop it. Common sense has to come into it. I've said it so many times. And I'm with you, Mike. I've had enough so many times. I've had enough. Stop showing the field every time, talking about equality, being diverse, because when you turn the camera on the other side of the field, it's another ball game. But let's talk about something different before I lose my you-know-what here.
Christina, I should have said thank you to you, by the way. Your input was super interesting. Can I just ask you a question, though? You obviously sit here as the referee and as a representative of that role. On a more human level, how do you feel about the decision to uphold the second yellow for Romelu Lukaku?
I would have preferred referee David Massa to not have issued that second yellow card. And this is where we would come in, and that, there's going to be a mark because we were being required to issue that yellow card. I would rather take that penalty in my assessment behind closed doors because of what I stand for on a private, personal level.
Understood. Thank you very much.